Welcome to SSU TV. My name is Ian Loney. On today's show, we'll be talking about Seahawks football and some of our way too early predictions. Joining me on the show as usual, we have Matt Page and Abraham DeWeese. And first of all, we're gonna talk about last week's game with Arizona and Pittsburgh, and of course, both of our panel experts here had Seahawks wins in those games.
Yes.
So this week we're going to be talking about the back-to-back road games they have, one against the Minnesota Vikings and first against the Baltimore Ravens. So first of all, Matt, what do you think about the game in Minnesota?
Well, Minnesota, I of course have focused on the offensive side of the ball, as usual, and Minnesota is an up-and-coming team on offense. They've got some exciting young players there. They're putting together some good cornerstones. Norv Turner has stepped in as their offensive coordinator, and we know he sucks as a regular coach, but he's really good at developing with quarterbacks. He did well with Phillip Rivers. He did well with Drew Brees. He's going to do very well with Teddy Bridgewater.
So you're a believer in Teddy Bridgewater?
I'm a big believer in Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's going to be a good cornerstone for that offense for years and years to come.
And what do you think about the running game?
The running game, they are going to have AP back, Adrian Peterson. He doesn't want to be playing for them, but tough cookies. You got the contract, you got to honor it.
Yeah.
So if he wants to play, he's going to be playing for Minnesota. So
you're a big believer in Teddy Bridgewater.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this offense ranked 28th in the league last year with 202 passing yards per game.
Okay, but what you got to realize is that Kyle Rudolph, their tight end, went down in week 3. And Cordarrelle Patterson got benched also in week 4 or week 5, and he's the big threat on their offense. What happened actually there is he wasn't mature enough. There's some question marks as far as whether he's going to develop enough, but he has the dynamic playability to be, think Percy Harvin before Percy Harvin let his head get huge. He's that kind of dynamic player, and if he can put his head on straight. My point is that Teddy Bridgewater in his rookie season,
Percy Harvin never got his head on straight.
Yeah, but there are some hopeful signs from this kid.
Percy Harvin never had his head on straight, so there's...
Yeah, right. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is they're hoping on this guy getting himself sorted out. But there's other diva type receivers that don't do that.
True. But with Norv Turner there to institute an easier system for him to understand, there are some signs that he's kind of waking up to it this year, and he's realizing after getting benched last season. My point is that to address your original question, Teddy Bridgewater was playing with 2 hands behind his back. He didn't have anyone to throw to. Their best wide receiver was Charles Johnson, who was picked up off the scrap heap. He was on the Cleveland Browns practice squad.
God, the Cleveland Browns.
And he became the number 1 wideout for the Vikings by just wearing the jersey. Okay, so they're looking ahead here. There is some optimism. Things will get better. They're gonna do a lot better this year.
So what do you think about the defense, though? I mean, the defense was pretty solid last year. I mean, they were really good against the pass. I mean, not quite as good against the run. What do you think about how their chances are?
Really solid is underselling this new version of the Purple People Eaters. These guys are pretty good. George Edwards is the defensive coordinator that came in a couple of years ago. He is a Mike Zimmer disciple. So the head coach of this team, big into defense, George Edwards gets his marching orders from Zimmer and has changed this team from the 32nd worst defense as far as giving up points just a couple of years ago to last year where they were 11th in the NFL. This has been a quick turnaround. They play an NFC West defensive style. So we're going to see multiple defensive formations, and we're going to see blitzes that you have no idea where they're coming from, but we're also going to see base defense when you don't expect it either. So it's going to be some interesting things that we see here.
It sounds like you think pretty highly of this defense. Do you think they have any weaknesses at this point? Or
youth is a tremendous weakness. Their players, their key contributors, are pretty much all under 25. They went through a couple of years ago, well, actually last year, got rid of all the oldies. Anybody over 28, out. Because they wanted a clean sweep and they wanted to run that Mike Zimmer defense. Now, because they're young, youth tends to be hyper aggressive. We've seen it with the Seahawks defense about 4 or 5 years ago. They were constantly overrunning sweep plays. They were constantly, over
Over
pursuing. Thank you. Yes. They also lack a dominant line. The defensive line is great. Don't get me wrong. They're just small. So when I talk about domination, they don't have the big 350-pound guy that just goes, raw. That's my impression of a defensive line.
They don't have an Ndamukong.
They don't have the Ndamukong Suh. They don't have the Halatoy Nada. They don't have the JJ Watt. Their guys are quick, fast, and small. Some of their defensive players like Everson Griffith, 7 or 12 sacks last year. This guy was a nobody. This defensive scheme is built to make him great, but he's about 260 in size. That's the kind of guy.
So he's kind of Bruce Irvin-ish.
He's Bruce Irvin. That's a very good. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that's indicative of all their players too. They're Anthony Barr out of UCLA, first rounder last year. He was an undersized, maybe a Lofa Tutupi type of guy.
Mm-hmm. Great pickup.
So great pickup because he's a hard worker. Mm-hmm. He overcomes some of his size disparity. This year they picked up a couple of rookies, Trey Williams, Eric Kendricks. Their weakness a bit was pass defense last year, but they got the best cornerback in the draft. Well, there's two cornerbacks they thought were the best. This guy is one of the two. Trey Williams, cornerback. Look for him to cover Baldwin and basically shut down the side of the field.
So this game is going to be in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. They're still playing, I believe, at the University of Minnesota Stadium outside in December in Minneapolis. It's going to be cold. Yeah. What do you guys think of this game?
I've got a runaway win. I am not as high on the offense for the Vikings as Matt is, but I think their defense is pretty good. But I think we're going to rip them apart on offense. And when we are on defense, I don't see that defensive line stopping Bennett, stopping Irvin, stopping Averill.
What do you think, Matt?
I have us as winning far and away too. The thing is with their offense, I am high on the offense, but they're not there yet. I think they have the pieces, they have the foundation. I think they have too much youth and give them another year and they'll be top notch. I think they'll run right into our number one ranked defense and they'll just get eaten alive. And their defense, quite impressive, just won't be able to hold us all back.
I think it's gonna be closer than you guys think it will. I think that the weather will be a factor. I think it'll keep the score low. I do think that, like you said, the offense with their inexperience, and Bridgewater particularly with his inexperience, there will be a couple turnovers that will decide it. But I do think the Seahawks will win. But I think it's going to be a lot closer than you guys think.
All right.
So anyway, the following game is against the Baltimore Ravens.
Another purple team.
Yes, another purple team. Another back-to-back road games in December.
Oh yeah. Big game.
Another tough place to play.
Absolutely.
It's going to be an important game. They're going to play the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense was pretty solid last year with I consider very overpaid quarterback Joe Flacco. What do you think? What do you think of the Ravens offense?
Well, I'm not very high on Joe Flacco either personally, but they did lose Ray Rice, and Ray Rice was such a big part of that lineup. But they did have some men step up, obviously. They had Justin Forsett step in a big way.
Yeah.
Former Seahawk. Great to see him do well, get the shot that he deserves.
Over
by the way.
1,000 yards rushing.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive. But they have a new offensive coordinator this year, Mark Trestman, coming over from the Bears.
The
Bears, and he was the head coach there that got fired, obviously, and replaced by John Fox. But this is the fourth offensive coordinator that Joe Flacco has had in 4 years.
Ooh, wow.
Okay. They keep bringing in blue chip offensive coordinators. I don't know how they do it. They just do it. But Trestman is good. Trestman is very good. I think he's just like Norv Turner in that he's probably going to be better as a coordinator than as a coach,
like you were saying.
But he is going to make one concession. He's pretty much going to stick with the West Coast style attack that this team has stuck with because Flacco is more comfortable in it and because they lost They're number 1 and 2 wide receivers over this offseason.
Oh, you want to talk about those changes, or?
Well, they lost Jacoby Jones and they lost Torrey Smith.
Yep, Torrey Smith is a big one.
They still have Steve Smith, the old Steve. Remember Steve Smith for the Panthers?
Yes.
Yes, he's still playing, believe it or not. Now, is he going to be good enough to be number 1? We'll find out, I guess. But they do have one of the best, in my opinion, offensive lines in football, and that makes it very easy for Mr. Forsett to have good games pretty regularly. They did pick up Brashad Perriman. He's a son of
Brett Perriman?
Brett Perriman, I believe. Yes, son of Brett Perriman in the draft, and Max Williams, who's a very athletic tight end that they're both very high on, and they hope will step in for with that loss. But their passing game is definitely going to take a step back, at least on the short term. So they're probably going to stick more and more with the rush game, the running game, with Forsett.
So do you think the lack of depth there will be an issue? Because after Forsett, there's not a whole lot.
After Forsett, there isn't a hell of a lot. You're right. So that I don't project them having a winning season this season. To be honest.
So the defense was one of the best in football statistically last year.
Oh my gosh, it was, yeah.
And so, what do you think of their chances this year?
Well, they're just going to be. They keep turning people over. They keep losing people like. They keep losing people like Halatoy Nada, who they just lost this year. They lost Ray Lewis a couple years back. They lost Ed Reed. Doesn't matter. They still play Ravens defense. This defense is led by defensive coordinator Dean Pease. Dean Pease runs a 3-4 defense, but it's not like a lot of other 3-4 defenses. They do not blitz a whole heck of a lot. They blitz when it's needed. They blitz when it's timely, and you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
A lot of other 3-4 defenses, they blitz all over the place.
Yeah, you expect all the crazy blitzes from different directions all the time.
Yeah, you can plan for it. This one you can't.
But all the old timers are gone. Doesn't matter. They've replaced it with free agents and through the draft. They got some guys that are really good. You may not have heard these guys because they're the next generation. But Jimmy Jurgen, great defensive lineman. Brandon Williams, great nose tackle. These guys are big, strong. They're in that Halatoy Nada mold. And there's a reason why they let go of the 32-year-old Nada, because they got guys 10 years younger. And and they've also got some great young guys at the linebacking core as well. C.J. Mosley out of University of?
Bama.
Alabama. And they have Terrell Suggs out of University of?
Arizona State.
Very good. And they have Courtney Upshaw out of the University of? It's okay, I don't know either. But I knew you'd get the first two, Matt. I knew
South
you'd get
Carolina?
You know what? You're right.
Wow,
Gamecock.
that's pretty good, Matt.
Pretty good. All right. I had to do that because Halatoy Nada, obviously Oregon. But anyway, I just want anyway, great linebacking core. Their main problem would actually have to be at the defensive backfield.
Yeah. What do you think of their secondary? It seems like...
Oh, well, okay. So the defensive secondary, they have a great cornerback, injured most of last year, Jimmy Smith, shut down cornerback. Nothing else. Nothing else. Are you available? Because they need somebody. Are you available? The Ravens need somebody in the defensive back.
If they want to pay me $1 million to get burned, I'll do it.
Give them a call.
They struggled to intercept the ball. They struggle at depth. They, addressed a little bit of this in the they addressed a little bit of this in the draft. However, it's terrible when you need rookies to jump in and start playing.
So, did they do anything this offseason to address those issues, or?
Yeah, okay. They picked some guys at 4th and 5th, but what they're really doing is schematically they're going with Timmy Jurgen and Brandon Williams in a different rushing method. So usually a nose tackle, Brandon Williams, their nose tackle. Usually what they do is they eat up space. They take up 2 or 3 guys. They're actually going to have him break up the field, collapse the pocket, because he's that good. He can do it. So they're schematically changing a few things because they're not big on their backfield.
So what do you guys think of this game? I mean, what do you think of the chances the Ravens have against the Seahawks?
I honestly think we're going to win. The defense might keep it a little closer because they do have, even though you mentioned the depth issues in secondary, I do think that we'll overcome them. But they're still really good up front. So we might have to just rely on the pass heavily. But I think overall we'll win. It might be a bit of a squeaker, but I think we'll pull it off.
What we've seen this last year is you don't run against these guys, but that's not our philosophy. We're going to keep trying to run. This is going to be a close game because I think we're going to be so beholden to trying to run against this defense that's hard to run against that we're going to miss some opportunities that are going to be wide available. But I still got us down for a win.
I think this defense is geared to stop us, and there are just too many road games in a row, and there's too many road games. They have to lose one sometime, and I think this is a good time for them to lose one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think the Ravens actually pull this one out. It'll be a close one, though.
Good time to lose one?
2 road games in a row. I agree with you, Ian. That's tough.
When is it ever a good time to lose?
Well, there's never a good time to lose, but there's times when it's going to happen.
Ask the Mariners. The Mariners know all the great times to lose.
yeah.
It looks like that's all the time we have for today. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Be sure to visit our website at seattlesideup.com for daily coverage of your favorite Emerald City teams. And feel free to like us on Facebook because we're awesome. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Seattle Side Up.
Kind of a big deal.
And from the SSU TV studio here in scenic Edmonds, Washington, I'm Ian Loney, and with Matt Page and Abraham DeWeese. And we thank you for watching.